Hello, everyone, and welcome to our new season of Blueprint for Equity. I'm Vince DiPofi, CEO at SSOE, and I'm here with Candice Harrison, Director of DEI at SSOE. Candice, welcome.
Thank you.
I cannot believe it's been 3 years since we filmed the first one of these. Looking back, I could not have imagined the progress we've made. So I'm really excited here to give an update to everybody, and I thought the best place to start would be what we've done, the investment into our employee resource groups, ERGs, over the last few years.
3 years in, we've done a lot. And for those of people who might be watching who don't know what an employee resource group is, it's a group that everyone in the group has a commonality or interest that is similar, and they look at SSOE in terms of what the business may need from that particular lens. And so we started with 3 employee resource groups: Black leaders, and collaborative change makers. We have our Pride ERG, which is people respecting identity, diversity, and equality. And then SWAN, our SSOE Women and Ally Network. One thing that was common was that they all wanted some level of focus on community and some focus on educating our company about who they are as people.
First of all, I was always impressed that as a company, we never said, thou shalt have these resource groups. The employees themselves created it. How does that process actually work of someone saying, I'd like to start an employee resource group and here's what I'd like to do?
Well, they approached me, or again, a lot of it came out through surveys or some of our listening sessions. And we really kind of based it on where the most interest was, but not just interest in having one, but actual people willing to participate and to engage in the work, because it is a group effort. Like, everyone has to come together to develop the charter. I think at the beginning, we were hoping for 10 to 15 people to participate.
But we got a lot more than 10 to 15 people. It's unbelievable how many people.
Absolutely. You could tell that the groups have been waiting just for something that they could look at and call their own. And from that, I think other groups started to say, well, we have an interest in a voice too that we'd like to share in the company. And so we added 3 more. One is our Interfaith Alliance, OLA, and then we also have HYPE. So our Interfaith Alliance is a multi-faith organization within our company, all of their various faiths coming together to do good for SSOE. And they do a lot of community outreach projects. They consider employees who may be in need and how they can support. And they've really kicked off very strong. And actually, I believe, in my opinion, they have the most representation across our company geographically. We have OLA, which is our Hispanic Latin allies. And so the O in OLA is lowercase for that purpose. And then we have HYPE, which is our Young Persons ERG, and it is helping young people excel.
Candice, you made a comment in there that I don't want to let go, that I think people really need to understand about this. You made the comment, you could tell people were waiting for this to happen. People have been waiting to get that sense of belonging in different groups in the company. And so I think, you yourself and Deanna Grady have just done a fantastic job cultivating that spirit.
Thank you. And I think it also helps having leadership like yourself that's supportive of it, allowing employees to do this during their workday. But they have been very resourceful in how they do the work, very considerate of one another in the times, because we do have several time zones, but making sure that it's a way to be inclusive of all of our employees. And that's another thing about our employee resource groups. We may have an African-American employee resource group, but anyone is welcome to join.
And I've noticed that because I've sat in on a couple myself. They are allies there. And I think if you're part of that group, that makes you feel supported. The RGs are trying to improve inclusion in the company. So the worst thing we could have done was say, well, you have to be a member like this to join this group, because now it becomes an exclusive club.
Yeah, and it's the exact opposite of what we're trying to accomplish.
I think that is one of the untold secrets of the success of why they've done so well at SSOE.
My name is Jose Carlos Arnal. I'm a structural engineer, one at SSOE. Participating at Pride has given me strength to bring my full self to work, knowing that you're backed by a community that supports you and understands you. In my case, being the lead of Pride ERG, I've been given the chance to contribute to the impact that we make at SSOE, and I've been given a vote of confidence by the group to continue with the mission and vision of the ERG. One initiative that made a huge difference in the workplace, in my opinion, would be when we were offered the opportunity to look over company benefits. Pride was able to review our benefits, ensure that they were inclusive. ERGs are about creating a space where we feel like people matter. Everybody should strive for their coworkers to be part of a company culture where they feel seen and empowered.
Candice, what are some other, I guess I'll say tangible actions that the groups have done to help SSOE be more successful?
You and I actually attended an event that kind of challenged us on our actions regarding accessibility. We have more wheelchair accessible spaces so that in the event that we hire someone that needs that, we have the appropriate space for them to work. We have quiet spaces. Some people may be neurodivergent and just need a space to go and step away and just have quiet time. We have a mother's room.
And I saw in Mexico, we just opened a mother's room down in our Chihuahua office.
Yes.
I just saw that post today.
We also look at what communities are we located in and how can we serve those communities. So different things that are going on in their community where they assemble together and go out and represent SSOE. We always like to talk about our volunteerism efforts, and a lot of our volunteerism happens through our employee resource groups. And I think that that's one of the things that separates us maybe from other companies is our commitment to volunteerism, but also the commitment to allowing our employee resource groups to choose these are organizations that matter to us and we'd like to support them. Another thing is, like I talked about it, touched on it before, is recruitment. We're going out into career fairs, so we're talking directly to potential employees, and we not only want to recruit them, but we want them to be attracted to us.
Hi, my name is Rachel Mason, and I am a engineer, and I work primarily with our food and consumer products. SWAN has really contributed to my experience and growth within the company and just expanding my network. I think that's like the number one thing that comes to mind. I work in one of our smaller offices, and I don't necessarily interact with a lot of other offices depending on what projects I'm on. And so this has been a great opportunity to meet people just totally across the organization, other divisions, other groups, all of their specialties. I can name multiple people that I work with in departments, in projects that are allies. They have been there, they've stood up for me, they've backed me up on they've just been a good friend and coworker. And because of that, one of the best ways to grow as an ally and to continue that support that we can provide each other is to join an ERG. And I think the big thing with that is just getting those aha moments, as I would call them, where you're sitting there and somebody's explaining to you their experience, their perspective, and you're like, I never thought about it that way. And so that, I think, is why the ERGs are like just one step further, but we love the support and we appreciate it.
So it's easy for me to say because I'm immersed in it, how great employee resource groups are. But from a leadership standpoint, what would you say are some of our significant improvements to the company?
Well, for sure, and the numbers bear this out, the different types of people that come to SSOE are way different than they were even 3 years ago before we started this. Blown away when I heard this number. Something like a third of the people that hired at SSOE join an ERG as soon as they're hired. So that in itself tells you this is resonating with people that are thinking about coming to work at SSOE. I'm convinced that this has been the most impactful thing in our recruiting, and in recruiting a more diverse talent that we were not able to attract before.
Absolutely. And I do think a big part of that, again, is our strong partnership with human resources. We really have great employees that thought very long and hard and strategically about how do we elevate employee resource groups in our onboarding process. And so we all work together to determine what they should know. It's really baked into the onboarding process so that they're aware of how to get access, how to join. Right now, we have about 214 employees participating in one or more ERGs. And that says a lot when we had zero participating just 3 years ago.
A lot of times I've noticed it's the little things. This is Pride Month when we're filming this. Out in the parking garage, they had tie-dye shirts. I made my first tie-dye shirt. The Pride group was sponsoring that. It's those small things that create bonds among people. And I'm interfacing with people that on a day-to-day basis I'm not interfacing with. So it was a lot of fun, but it's those types of things that are the unseen fabric in a culture that really keeps a company together and makes it better.
And I think to that point, they see you, the CEO, down with them making tie-dye shirts. That matters to them, that you're willing to come out of your office and engage with them. It makes it, you care about them as employees, because you could have just said, oh, this is nice, cool, keep going and go get your ice cream, go back in the building. Even bigger than that, though, we have executive sponsors. And that's part of our employee resource group structure. And an executive sponsor is someone from our top level leadership that takes the position of the advocate within our company from an executive standpoint of our employee resource groups. And you happen to be the executive sponsor of Pride.
I am.
Why is that structure important, to have that leadership level advocacy?
That is a group that did not feel a sense of belonging at SSOE. Before we started this, I heard that privately from many people in that community. I knew that that would be the group that would have the biggest challenge within the company. So I felt it was important. The CEO should be the executive sponsor to send the message that it's that important that this group feel a sense of belonging at SSOE. The transformation in that group in particular has been so obvious to me, because I've worked at the company 25 years, and I can tell you either these people didn't identify themselves or they just didn't come to work at SSOE. At the end of the day, all of these groups, it's got to improve the business, the performance of the company. The results have been tangible to the business because we've got a much more diverse thought process in how we approach projects, how we come up with ideas. Everybody says, what are you most proud about of your company? What's going great? The one statistic I always look to is the employee engagement scores. Most companies, their employee engagements are in the mid-50s. Before we started this program, our employee scores were in the mid-70s. So we were already well above average. And to quote Jim Collins, we went from good to great. Our employee engagement scores now are in the mid to high 80s. Last quarter, the most recent one was 87. That's in the top 10% in the country. What's really remarkable about that, we also have one of the highest participation rates, which also is a measure of your employee engagement. So we have 1,500 people globally, and all employees in all of our global locations participate in this. So the numbers are very substantial, and I think they really highlight the performance and success that SSOE has realized as a part of this program.
My name is Brandon Monfort, and I'm an engineering working in the food processing department. Being involved in Black, we're big on giving back to the community, and so we had a lunch-in just this past February, and all donations from the food catering went towards a after-school program, and we were able to raise $1,500 for that specific group. Others should consider joining ERGs, whether they're a part of that community or not. If you are a part of that community, it's good to know that you have allies who support you. I show up not only to complete my jobs, but to also continue to push forward so people who look like me can have that same, passion. It's hands down one of the best experiences. It shows that they care more than just about the bottom line.
So one of the things, I talked about our partnership with Human Resources, and we've thought very strategically about how we can just increase the diversity in our talent pool. We had a lot of great places that we were looking for talent, but not only did we want to look for talent, we wanted to be attractive where people kind of sought us out too. And so I think our approach to recruiting has been really key to our success in how we're doing things. So can you talk a little bit about your perspective on our approach?
There's been untapped talent that SSOE needs that we've not been able to tap into. These ERGs help modify our recruiting efforts, because we used to have one message and we recruit everybody the same way. But now we're like, if you're going to attract different people, you've got to recruit differently to people.
I mean, the small things, working with our marketing team just to look at what do our graphics look like. If we're going to the Society of Women Engineers Career Fair, we need to make sure that we're showing women in leadership and women doing great things at our company so that they can see themselves working for us. And those are all things that I think are important to people. Because if I don't see leadership that looks like me, that's going to tell me that's a place that's not for me. One of the things that we talked about when we did the first video was HBCUs. We talked about, you know, when I first started, I asked the question, do we recruit at any HBCUs? And at that time, the answer was no. And it's like, well, wait a minute, you know, you want to recruit.
Maybe this is why we're not attracting people, because of that.
We're not going there. And so along with human resources and our early career recruitment team, we started to look at what HBCUs have engineering programs that, you know, meet the needs of the kinds of engineering work and architecture work that we do. And we made a strategic effort to make a relationship, be it career fair or otherwise, with those universities. And we started with Tennessee State University and our scholarship program. And now we're looking to expand to even more HBCUs across the country that have a focus on architecture and engineering. Again, just being strategic. We're not telling anyone you must hire, but by presenting more candidates to our hiring managers, that's how we ensure we actually do have the best talent, not just the best talent that we have access to.
That line, Candice, it hits the nail on the head. The best talent that we have access to. We didn't have access to this talent 3 years ago. What are the challenges that we've seen as we've tried to change the culture and implement some of these programs?
Well, initially, some of the challenge was just buy-in. And not because some people maybe they didn't feel as strongly as others about DEI, but some people didn't have a position either way. They were like, this is an engineering firm. I don't understand why we're focused on that. We need to figure out how we make money, and that's our role here. And so they felt like it was like something that was more of a distraction to what our business was, but really getting those employees to understand this is critical to our business success.
Our business is people.
And this helps us make money, and that's proven, because when people are happy and they like where they work, they can come to work and be themselves, they perform. We knew that the work was going to take some time to get to a place, and we may never get to a place where everybody buys into it, but by and large, more people have than have not. I think by education, a lot of our trainings that we've had gives people information that they didn't have. We're arming people with the tools to think differently. I think we've approached DEI from a standpoint of provide you the information with the expectation that you will do better. We haven't forced anyone to do anything. And I mean, you know, we do have mandatory trainings, but we have mandatory trainings on many parts of our business. So we're not forcing people to learn about DEI, and, you know, not unlike any of our other core values that we are training.
Right. We have regular training in safety, in ethics, in cybersecurity as well.
And I think treating it that way helped, as a core value, which it is, helped. I think another thing is having an open mind myself. I'll be very candid. This work also showed me I had many blind spots. I felt like I have diverse friends. You know, I'm a friendly person. I love everybody. I welcome everybody. But through this work, I realized I had actually also surrounded myself with people who were like me. Not just look like me, but also think like me. And so I had to check myself to say, maybe I don't agree with this person, but let me at least understand where this person is coming from. And the real hot button word was privilege. And that was one of the first, you know, kind of things that would drive people to want to have private conversations with me, because their understanding of how I was using privilege, they perceived it as derogatory, like I was taking a shot at them, and they had earned everything that they had. But I had so many people and so many great conversations that we left. Maybe we didn't agree on everything, but we at least understood each other's point of view, because I let people know I also am privileged in some way. Like, for example, I've never had to ask for an accommodation when I take a flight. I've never, you know, I have, you know, a lot more education than some of the people that I socialize with. But how do I take the privilege that I have to support other people and help other people in terms of advocacy?
I didn't realize myself how far I needed yet to go. And just you and I, the relationship we've developed, I mean, we come from completely different backgrounds in a lot of different ways. we've been mentors to each other along on this journey, which I think has been very helpful for me in being able to then communicate it to my peers and at an executive management level and other people that recognize it, it's not challenged and everybody's on a different place in the journey. We have to continue with that mindset.
And that's what I think I love the most, where everyone is, feeling included, they're showing up as themselves, and that part of the work is working. That's the biggest reward, because I'm really seeing that our employer is changing lives of our employees. And they've said that. But another reward are people who came into it and did not see the value of it in the company and can at least understand why the company would take it on. And people who are even vocal and willing to say, I'll be the first one to say, I didn't, but now that I know more, I'm able to do better. So when we're talking about expanding our talent pool, ultimately who works for us is who emerges as leaders in our company. And one thing that is a noticeable difference, the change in women in leadership at SSOE. That's one thing that is to be commended. Talk to us a little bit more about what that looks like and what was the evolution of that.
This is one where I had a light bulb moment. Actually, the light bulb was put over my head by a woman at SSOE. She said, we don't have enough women in leadership. We're doing this. Hey, we're working really hard. We're trying to hire women. We're doing our best and all this. And she just hit me with a 2x4 and said, Vince, you're working hard to hire women at SSOE. She goes, what are you doing to attract women to work at SSOE? I was stunned because I'm like, I don't have a good answer for that, because we weren't really working hard at attracting women to SSOE. And some of the things that we've done, the flexible work, hybrid work program is huge to attracting women. The reality is women still have a lot of the childcare responsibilities in a family. That's changing a little bit. There was another light bulb moment, if I can tell this story. There was a show called The Undercover Boss, and I was watching it with my daughter. And the undercover boss they didn't have a maternity leave policy. And she goes, Dad, what's SSOE's maternity leave policy? So you know what? I don't even have a clue. I had to pull out my laptop and look it up. I pull up a policy. I told her what it was, and she goes, is it any wonder no woman wants to work at your company? And she was just aghast at it. And so I went to our benefits person literally the next day. So now I think it's a fantastic policy, but it shows how far behind we really were. Last year we made some significant changes. We increased time off for partners of children, people that adopted. We did things from a fertility standpoint to help people. We did things, we definitely increased the mental health aspects of our benefits, and all of those ideas came from those groups.
Hi, I'm Debbie Morgan. I'm the manager of employee benefits. We here at SSOE have a diverse population, so it's important for the benefits team to understand what the needs are from the ERGs. For example, back in 2023, we had a U.S. strategic benefits review, and we did contact the ERGs. The ERG groups really had a voice in helping adopt our current enhancements to our plans. I do feel that our benefits package is hands above most companies. I do know it is drawing talent through the company. I've talked to the TA manager, we talk to the recruiters. We do a lot of benchmarking, so we do understand that we are offering coverages and plans that other companies just aren't offering at this time.
When I first became CEO, I only needed one hand to count the women in leadership at the company. Now I need more than two hands to do it. We're not where we need to be, but the number of principals in our company was, say, when I started was, easily less than 10%. It's now approaching 25 to 30%. So we're making gains, but it has to be intentional. And one of the things that, I realize is that when you are the majority, you have to advocate for others. You've got to think differently. You've got to make room for more voices and different voices at the table. As we've gotten more women, I can see the different thought process and different ideas.
And I think also, too, you and other people in our leadership have asked women to come together to help think through different things. So, why aren't women interested? What can we be doing? Asking them and then taking what they say and listening and doing it, I think that makes a difference, too. When we first started this work, you became a little bit of a rock star right away. It was like people heard you speak one time and were like, we want to have him on this panel. We want him to do this. And one big partnership that we have locally is Women of Toledo. And one of the things they have is He for She, which is an advocacy organization for men to advocate for women. So I know you participated in the forum for that, but beyond that, you've been pretty visible spreading our message of DEI. So can you talk a little bit about He for She and maybe some other things that we've done?
Yeah, and I'll say I was flattered to be considered for that. I think just being able to speak publicly about that and say, here's the things we're doing, because after that panel, I had a guy, probably my age, walked up and says, my daughter's looking for a career in engineering. I'd love for her to work at SSOE. Can I send her her resume? You know, I forget what college she was at. I said, absolutely. So it is those public-facing things that people need to hear about the companies. I mean, and, you know, he was advocating for his daughter. Hey, I think this would be a great place for you to be successful.
You also did the Northwest Ohio DEAI Alliance.
Yes.
You were the keynote for that. And I think the more that people see our leadership out, because you, from an advocacy standpoint, is great, if not greater, of an impact on leaders in doing the same thing.
And I had underestimated that impact at first because
You used to say, should I really be, I don't know if I'm
like,
the right person.
I am the middle-aged white guy. Why am I talking about DEI? I felt I shouldn't be the one up there doing it, but I realized that, no, you need to be the person advocating for this because you are the one sitting at the top of the company. And if you don't do it, everybody else is going to be say, well, what's your leadership saying about it? So it took me a while to get comfortable. I am comfortable in that role now. To your point, I think that is important for the leadership of the company to do that.
Hi, my name's Betsy Herner. I'm the Vice President of Corporate Development at SSOE. I think what inspired me to be the executive sponsor for Black was just to make sure there was someone in that role who understood that their job was not to tell them what to do, but to listen, to break barriers for them, to help amplify their voices. So SSOE's vision is to design and build the future for our clients, our colleagues, and our communities. When I think about that, we can't really build a future for colleagues or communities that aren't represented. The ERGs not only make all of those communities and colleagues feel like they belong, they also give us a chance to hear their voice and help them to have a say in what that future is that we're building. I have employees who joined an ERG their very first week, and I think that says a lot about how important it was to them joining SSOE and how important it will be for them to stay.
So Candice, one of the things you and I have talked about, obviously we're in our headquarters here in Toledo, Ohio, but SSOE is a global company. And you and I have been working to really institutionalize this across all of our offices. Talk a little bit about what are some of the things you've been working on to help advocate across our different offices.
That was one thing we heard loud and clear. The terminology was Toledo-centric. Everything was Toledo-centric. But thinking about our whole company, tapping into those organizations that make sense for those particular communities. We're doing things that we're putting our logo on things so people are getting some brand recognition, but we're also putting our people in places that we hadn't done before. And so my first goals for my second full year was to expand in Atlanta and Portland, our next largest offices. And through our former president, I was able to get some wonderful relationships established out in the Portland area that were focused on underrepresented children or teens and so forth in STEM, but also on the other side of that, the National Society of Black Engineers, the professional side. So these are already people who have graduated from college, maybe working in their respective fields, but they are still engineers, and they're reaching back, also trying to impact the pipeline. One of the things I heard you say at a talk at University of Toledo is that you didn't want to just impact diversity at SSOE, you wanted to impact diversity in our industry. I took that to heart. So a lot of the work that we do is not just underrepresented in STEM. Maybe it's specific, like NOMA in Atlanta. One of our programs there is the NOMA Pipeline Project, and that is an organization for National Organization of Minority Architects, but the Pipeline Projects focus specifically on middle and high school students, just inspiring a love for architecture, doing projects, and really trying to get them excited about the field of architecture. And we have our architects helping run those programs, helping do that exploration, those teachings and things like that. We're doing work with the Chattahoochee Society in Atlanta, and now we're prepared to now expand even further to get into our Nashville communities. We already have our TSU relationship, but there's more that we could do with TSU, but also tapping into the youth, and also Austin, one of our newer offices.
Yep. Well, last subject we've got, Candice, is about psychological safety. Talk about some of the things that we're looking at with psychological safety and how we're thinking about that at SSOE.
Part of diversity or understanding diversity is understanding a person has a need to feel safe at work. One of the things that I learned new was neurodiversity as another approach to ways that you can consider a person diverse. Some people think differently. People have different diagnosis or maybe undiagnosed, just ways that they are that are different than other people that they work alongside, and making sure that we have appropriate training for our employees so that they understand how to work better with their colleagues, to understand them better, because again, it's about people. So one of the things we had, one of our retired employees was really, really well versed and educated a lot of us on Lean Operating System, or LOS. How does that help support psychological safety in our company?
Well, the core, when you peel everything around Lean, it's about respect for people.
Some of the things that we've learned through that, some of the people within the company didn't really have an understanding of what kinds of ways we can implement or be on the receiving end of microaggressions. And so something as simple as cutting a person off when they're speaking, or, defaulting to a woman to here, you can take the notes, or, something like that. Those are things that people don't realize are very offensive, and they are forms of microaggression. And those are things that could lead to a person walking out of the door. I think that was very helpful in learning about biases and different type of biases. That's another training we'll have very soon, because I even learned a lot of ways that we can be biased against our own employees that have nothing to do with, gender or race or anything, just the ways that we treat people, respect them or not respect them. And so I think we've been doing a lot of focus on now educating people on how to be actionable in our DEI efforts.
The microaggressions for me is probably the single hardest thing to manage. I'll say the worst microaggression, and you'll laugh when I say this, is the he-peat. Oh. Once I understood what he-peating was, and if you're not familiar with he-peating, it's a woman makes a comment in a meeting, has an idea, it basically gets ignored, and then 5 minutes later, a guy comes and says the exact same idea. Vince, that's a great idea. And honestly, some people don't realize, because they weren't listening, and most people would like to say that they listen, but they really wait to talk. That's not showing respect for people. Well, Candice, I don't want to end on that note. I want to end up on an uplifting note. So let's talk maybe just a little bit about the success that we've had, and what do you see for the future of SSOE around DEI?
So again, I've been very proud of the work, particularly now. There's been so many changes, and I think we have rose to the occasion because we have always been inclusive from the start. We are trying to create an inclusive place for everybody. We need everyone to be a part of the work so that we can move it along. And no, you might not be an underrepresented group, but you still contribute to the diversity of our organizations. I would love to see more participation in our employee resource groups. I would love to see more actionable steps that our employee resource groups are able to take with our leadership team and grow the company. And I would just really like to bring more people along in the work that we're doing. So I'm really proud of it and just looking forward to the future.
Well, Candice, that's a great wrap up. First of all, I want to say we wouldn't have got there without you. You've been a fantastic partner for me and for the company in the success that we've realized. I mean, we have literally changed the culture of the company to be something that I'm extremely proud of. We've got a lot of good things ahead of us. Again, everybody, thanks for joining in on our brand new season of A Blueprint for Equity.